What do you get when a London raised American South African and a New York raised Moroccan meet on the interwebs and become instant soul sisters? One of them, an Ayurvedic practitioner and transformation coach, and the other, a Conspire breathwork coach and Reiki master teacher. Both obsessed with wellness, family, entrepreneurship, relationships, and the magic of human expansion and growth. You get a whole convo. We truly believe that with an open heart, focused mind, and energy receptive to the possibilities, your wellness journey can guide you to a life that exceeds your wildest dreams. Welcome to our podcast. We're Ella and Iman, and we are so happy you're here. Come vibe with us as we explore the wholeness of being through the lens of wellness. Welcome to A Whole Convo with Ella and Iman. We've got lots to talk about, haven't we, Iman?
We do, and I am so excited.
Because we're going to kick off today with something that we talk about in passing quite a lot in our work, in reference to our work, and in reference to how we approach our work and how we approach life. It's kind of a perspective, and that is about the importance of intention and how working consciously and deliberately with intention makes things possible in our lives or not.
Yes, absolutely. I think this is we can go deep with this one. You know how I like to go deep.
One line. So, what would you like to say? I guess what's the starting point? Because for me, it's when we think about things, whether we're doing it deliberately or not, we're giving energy to what it is that we're thinking about. And that is starting the wheels of creation, putting them into motion. Because let's say, for example, if I say to you, don't think about a pink elephant, what's the first thing that you're going to do?
Think about a pink elephant.
Right. And it's like that word play that it's easy to kind of overlook it and not consider how that engagement in our thoughts and an engagement with that energy that follows our thoughts and that concentration and what that begins to set into our minds when it's repeated over and over again, and how that starts to create our experience.
Yeah.
And if we were to talk about money, I think this is something that everybody has quite an emotive reaction to money, whatever that story is with money, even if it's, I feel really confident and secure with money, versus the other end of the spectrum where money is something that feels uncomfortable and it causes me worry and stress. Now, the more, in my experience, the more I focus on worrying about money, I notice that I have more things to worry about money around.
100%. Yeah, for sure.
And the opposite is not, I don't think about it, but how I think about it then changes how I experience and what I create with the money I experience. So that's an example of it, emotion. And it comes from this understanding that where we consciously and deliberately think about what we want in our lives, consciously and deliberately put a plan into motion or make a decision about something, then we start to experience the feedback of that decision, that thought, that energy becoming reflected to us.
Yeah. I think it's because we're breathing life into it, right? And that's something that I think, consciously in the everyday today things and maneuvers that we have to obviously be responsible for, we don't really think about it in that way. Most of the time, we're just thinking about like checking off tasks and making sure our responsibilities are handled. And in the conditioning of our society, it's like there's a lot of pressure that exists in the way we live because it's like if you don't handle this, you're quote unquote in trouble or there's
Mm,
quote unquote a problem. So I think like our everyday to day life, the way most people live it, is just handling things and making sure things get figured out or taken care of. And so the intention and the thought process within, let's say, that very busy day is forgotten that there's breath. There's breath, which I'm sure, you can obviously talk a little bit deeper on this, but there's a life force that we feed into that, into
mm,
those actions, into those thoughts. So it's like if we're breathing life into the things that are actually not serving us, or like you said, worry, or any kind of thought that disempowers us, then that's gonna get like it's gonna get more life, and it's gonna get bigger and grander and more monstrous, and it can become a monster, literally, right? But if we're breathing life into the things that actually elevate us and help serve us, and we're really more intentional with the way we want to create in life, then I think
mm.
that obviously dissipates the stress and the anxiety and the worry a little bit more, because we're more conscious and intentional about how we want to move forward and what we want to create. So for me, it's a lot about, okay, paying attention to what am I breathing life into? What am I really magnifying right now?
Such a perfect way to express it, breathing life into it, because it's the the reminder that the energy that we have, breath as the energy of life, lives and is expressed through every aspect of who we are.
Mm,
And we can then take that and run with it. Because as you were speaking, I think it's so interesting. Yes, we are. Life is set up in a way that day to day, most ordinary people have so many things that they're juggling, which are more adjacent to survival
mm,
versus having that reminder that we have power. We have power, even if it is in getting the day-to-day tasks done, which are essential for how we live, essential to make sure that our environment is maintained and we have the money to buy the things that we need to clothe ourselves, all of the basics of life. And yet, even in conducting those basics, we have so much power it, about how we feel about it. So, say, for example, cleaning. We all have to clean our environment. And we
I hope
may,
so.
yes, really, really hope so. And we may all have a different relationship with what it means to maintain the hygiene and cleanliness of our environment and our space. And if we make a simple shift and adjustment to the intention that we bring to that task that we do repeatedly, because some of it is it's like it's boring. I don't really want to be doing this again.
Yeah,
You
the
know, I
mundane
cleaned.
stuff.
Yeah, I did it yesterday. I did it this morning. What do you mean I've got to do it again? But if I go into it with that attitude, I can have resentment about it. I can feel really put on and really frustrated and really disconnected from the fact that it's a privilege that I have somewhere to clean. I have a home to clean. I have a shelter that is
Mm,
mine that I get to decide how it looks and I get to arrange it in a certain way. And if I'm putting in love into my space because I'm appreciating it and I'm grateful that I have this space to take care of and to maintain, and that in my decision to maintain it in a certain way, I can make it look beautiful, or I can make it look edgy, or I can make it look however it is that I want it to look through this repetitive, somewhat boring task, that happens over and over again, maybe more than I'd like it to.
right.
But it changes the whole experience, not of only of the process of doing it, but then how I appreciate what happens once it's done. And then I can pour love into it. I can pour creativity into it. I can pour gratitude into it. And then I can show that to the people in my space through my expression of what it is that I create. And then
hopefully when they come into the space, they get to experience that feeling too.
Yes.
They connect in with that energy as well.
They're gonna feel it for sure because you've already inserted that energy in that space. And that's powerful. That is a palpable, that's a, we may not say tangible because we can't necessarily see it, but it can be felt. And that does
Absolutely.
feel for me like tangible because when I step into a space and I feel the energy is like vibrant, nurturing, and positive, it is something that I feel in my body. So it feels very
Mm,
tangible, feel it in my spirit. There's a couple of things I heard you say in explaining that example, and I think it's actually a perfect example, as simple as it is. It just gives our listeners and viewers just a little bit more of an idea of how minute things can be that are actually really big though, right? And so I heard
yes.
perspective, I heard gratitude. In those two spaces, we have a lot of control and power. And I
Mm,
think we often forget that we actually have that power. We are the ones that decide the perception of things when we're in the middle of doing it. So you mentioned that example, and I heard that if you change your perspective about it, and you
mm,
actually live in gratitude, then you're not going to be in that state and that energetic field that maybe makes you feel like, oh, why do I have to do this? Or resentful because you change your perspective and thinking about it. Oh, this is actually a positive thing for me. The fact that I even have a space to clean or to do something with, that perspective does shift the energy of the person and the mindset of the person. So I think if we're
mm,
like thinking about it like stepwise, if we want to really dissect this and simplify it, anything that we're thinking about, if we're at a place that we feel resentment or just any negative feeling towards it, maybe to first shift the perspective and how we're actually looking at it and what does it really mean or what can we make it mean? Because really that's where a lot of
mm.
our turmoil comes from if we think about it. It's like if I'm making this mean this negative thing, then I'm going to have a negative experience. So I think that's really important to bring up and that's what I heard in that example is definitely like being a little bit more accountable for the perspective
Mhm.
we give the things that we are involved in.
Absolutely. And saying it's negative, building on from that, it's like the weight of that responsibility versus the joy or the privilege of
Mm,
that being in that situation. You know, the privilege of having these things, because even though we talk about being evolved as human beings and, we're not like animals, blah, 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 blah. And yeah, 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 but we are animals. And even though at this stage of human evolution, some people are so fortunate. We're fortunate enough to have the benefit of the people that have gone before and things they may have left to us. So, people may be living the legacy of their family passing down a home, but somewhere along the line, someone really had to put in a lot of work to make that so,
mm.
so just not really appreciating what's happened before to be in this situation is huge. So the privilege that we have to be able to have certain responsibilities, it's so easy to take those things for granted and disconnect from the fact that we don't know what could happen tomorrow. We don't know what situation, how life can take its twists and turns. So the more love and appreciation and intention we put, that focus, that energy, that emotion, that care, it changes the whole process of being gifted that privilege.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. I want to end it by just saying one thing I just thought about in us discussing this is that it almost feels like it's like energy is like the sunlight, right? So if we put that energy towards weeds, the weeds are going to grow. But if we put that
Exactly.
sunlight towards flowers, then the flowers are going to bloom. So it's like which direction are we choosing to focus this sunlight, aka the energy in which we're giving everything towards? What direction do we want to put it towards? And obviously sometimes easier said than done because there's a lot of things happening in life that seem like they're challenges or they're really big distractions or something that we feel like how the heck are we even going to get out of this? Sometimes it can feel very intense. So sometimes saying things like, well, where's the energy going and what's the mindset like can feel a little bit, minimalistic or just like, oh, well, how do I even do that when I'm in this? But I think it is really connecting to the fact that we do have power. We do have
Mm,
choice and
mm.
we are energetic beings. So there's a lot of energy flow. There's a lot of life force. Like we began this episode speaking about breath and prana and life force. So just connecting to what our life force in us equates to, knowing the power of that, just making it a conscious choice to actually direct it in the way we actually want to direct it.
Absolutely. And that's something that is missing from a lot of the information we're given growing up when we're learning about life is it is focused on the output, but not giving us the tool to remember that we're the one who is creating that output. So I love that. The sunlight, it will grow even when it's just earth before we see the weeds coming up or before we see the flowers bloom. That sunlight on the naked earth
Mm.
decides and determines what is produced from there. I love it. Love it, love it, love it.
Beautiful. I love this topic. Would love to hear from our listeners and viewers what their thoughts on this topic are. How do they maneuver and direct their energy sometimes, and how the mind can obviously, take over often. And we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, and also if they've actually thought about it in those terms, have you
Mm.
even considered that the where you're thinking and the vibes you put behind that are changing your experience? Because if it's new to you, what would you do differently now that you can like hopefully see this from this conversation?
Ooh, love that. Yes, we'll have to add that on the show notes.
For real.
Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. This has been a whole convo with Ella and Iman.
Until next time.
That is a wrap on this week's convo. We had a blast talking to you.
Thank you for sharing your time, hearts, and minds with us.
We hope this episode left you thinking, feeling, and maybe even breathing a little deeper. If it moved something in you, please share it, text it to a friend, or just sit with it.
Remember, the power of change can start with the simplest convo.
And if you have any comments or thoughts you'd like to share with us, please feel free to do so. We'd love to connect with you. Don't forget to subscribe to our show so you never miss a moment of the magic. And if you're curious about any of our services and offerings, check out the show notes for all the links and goodies. We're so grateful you're on this journey with us. Until next time,
Stay rooted, stay whole.